We're live from New Delhi, watching the India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. India's Prime Minister visits Guyana on the third leg of his three-nation visit. First visit of an Indian Prime Minister to the Caribbean nation in 56 years to co-chair the second India CARICOM summit. G20 economies wrap up two-day summit in Rio with focus on combating climate change, poverty and other global challenges. South Africa takes over presidency from Brazil. Israel's Netanyahu says Hamas will no longer rule enclave as he visits Gaza, offers a $5 million reward and safe passage for anybody who helps return Israeli captives.
Hamas will not rule Gaza. We are eliminating its military capabilities in a very impressive way.
US President-elect Donald Trump continues to pick loyalists for his cabinet, names Dr. Mehmet Ozer to oversee Medicare and Medicaid, Cantor Fitzgerald, CEO Howard Lutnick to lead Commerce Department. 55th edition of the International Film Festival of India begins in Goa today. 270 films from 101 countries to light up the festival for the next 9 days. And on to the top story this hour. After concluding constructive and fruitful G20 Brazil visit, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting Guyana in the third leg of his three-nation visit. This is the first ever visit of an Indian Prime Minister in over 50 years. During the two-day visit, the two sides will exchange views on giving strategic direction to our unique relationship, which is based on shared heritage, culture and values. PM Modi will also pay his respects to one of the oldest Indian diaspora who migrated more than 185 years ago and engage in a fellow democracy as he addresses their parliament. During this visit, he'll also join leaders from the Caribbean partner countries for the second India CARICOM summit. The summit will enable the leaders to renew historical ties and expand our cooperation into new domains. And to discuss the significance of this visit and India's growing partnership with Guyana, DD India's Siddharth Bharadwaj spoke exclusively with Dr. Amit Talang, India's High Commissioner to Cooperative Republic of Guyana.
I've been joined by India's High Commissioner to Guyana, Dr. Amit Talang. It's an exciting moment for both India and Guyana. Incredibly pivotal moment for both the countries, isn't it?
A visit at the prime ministerial level is happening after almost 5 decades. 56 years to be precise, and there's a lot of excitement, a lot of optimism.
What do you have to say about diaspora's role, in bridging the gap between both the countries?
Traditionally, our two countries, they are very closely bound because of the culture, the common culture and traditions, and the fact that many of the Guyanese, they consider India still as their motherland because their ancestors came from India. And that connection, in fact, is still alive.
Guyana is experiencing a significant, transformation in terms of its economy, thanks to its booming oil sector. Could you tell us about how this visit will strengthen the energy ties between India and Guyana?
Since 2019, when the actual exploration and the oil extraction started in Guyana. Today, Guyana is one of the major producers of crude, and in the coming years, probably the production is going to increase even more than that. And on the other hand, there is India or Bharat, for example, because we are also one of the fastest growing major economies. We are the major I would say in terms of development as well. We are experiencing a very fast growth. And we have a lot of demand for oil. So we are among the major consumers of oil today. So we are natural partners, I would say, because Guyana is a major producer, we are a major consumer, and the kind of relationship that we share, I think it's a win-win situation.
MOU, like you just mentioned, hydrocarbons, and MOU was approved by the Union Cabinet, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in hydrocarbon sector. What if it goes through? What benefit both the countries will get?
We have proven expertise when it comes to many of these areas, and already there's a lot of cooperation happening. We have received requests from the Guyanese side, especially, for example, in skill development, because this kind of activity requires a lot of technical expertise, a lot of infrastructure, and we will be in a position to provide that to Guyana. Even if we talk about, say, petroleum engineering and exploration and many of the allied areas, we can work in that area. So I think MOU of course is very much on the anvil, but I can also say that the cooperation has been ongoing. A lot of engineers from the Ministry of Natural Resources and other agencies, they are going to India, they take courses in India under the iTech program and various other options that we offer. So I think already a lot of cooperation is happening, and it will increase further as an outcome, of course, of this MOU, but in general also as an outcome of this visit.
Well, thank you so much, Ambassador, for giving your valuable insights today.
And now we give you a glimpse of the historic and multifaceted India-Guyana ties. Well, the group of 20 economies on Tuesday wrapped up their two-day meeting, underscoring the need for collective action to combat climate change, poverty and other global challenges. On day two, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a session on sustainable development and energy transition, emphasizing the need for collective efforts to build a sustainable future. Details in our next report.
And with this, the 19th G20 summit ended, on world's major economies working on deepening global cooperation with one aim, a better future. G20 leaders' declaration focused on sustainable development, growth, fighting poverty and harnessing technology.
Declaration focuses on hunger and poverty, it focuses on climate and energy,
Georgetown, Guyana, after a successful visit to Nigeria and Brazil. Prime Minister has just landed at Guyana. This is the last leg of his three-nation visit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Guyana marks a significant milestone in India's foreign policy towards the Caribbean and Latin American regions. Prime Minister at the Guyana airport being greeted Prime Minister Modi arrived at the Guyana airport being greeted by the Guyana President Irfan Ali himself. Prime Minister being given a warm welcome there. In fact, Prime Minister Modi has become the first Indian Prime Minister to visit the South American nation in 56 years. And this visit is anticipated to open new avenues for cooperation in areas such as energy, agriculture, education, technology, and people-to-people ties. Prime Minister Modi meeting all the dignitaries there. He's been welcomed by the Guyana President himself. And this high-level diplomatic engagement underlines India's commitment to strengthening its relationship with the Caribbean, and it reflects the deep cultural and economic bonds that India shares with Guyana. In fact, we may tell you again that Prime Minister Modi has become the first Indian Prime Minister to visit the South American nation in 56 years. And Prime Minister Modi there being accorded a welcome. Prime Minister Modi landed at the Georgetown airport in Guyana and has been accorded a ceremonial welcome there. In fact, it is anticipated that his visit will open new avenues for cooperation in areas such as energy, agriculture, education, technology, and especially people-to-people ties. Prime Minister was welcomed by the Guyana President Irfan Ali himself. And India and Guyana share a rich historical bond, largely due to a presence of a sizable Indian origin population in Guyana. Almost 40% of Guyana's population as Indian heritage. Prime Minister Modi has arrived at Georgetown Airport in Guyana after a successful visit to Nigeria and Brazil. He's welcomed by the President of Guyana himself, Mr. Irfan Ali. This is the last leg of his three-nation visit. In fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits to Guyana marks a significant milestone in India's foreign policy towards the Caribbean and Latin American regions. India and Guyana share a rich historical bond, largely due to the presence of a sizable Indian origin population in Guyana, and almost 40% of Guyana's population has Indian heritage, a legacy dating back to the 19th century when Indian laborers were brought to the Caribbean. This diaspora connection has been long enough and a cornerstone of India-Guyana relations, creating a unique cultural bridge between the two countries. In fact, Prime Minister Modi's visit is expected to celebrate this shared heritage, highlighting India's support and solidarity with the Guyanese people. Also, Prime Minister Modi's visit to Guyana is the latest of the high-level engagement between the two nations. We may also tell you that last year, Guyana President Irfan Ali was the chief guest at the Prasar Bharati Divas and was awarded the Prasar Bharati Samman. That is the highest honor for persons of Indian origin. In fact, Prime Minister Modi's visit to Guyana is the first pan-Indian premier since former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's visit in 1968. And PM Modi is set to hold talks with Irfan Ali and address a special session of Guyana's parliament. Prime Minister Modi will also co-chair the second India CARICOM summit alongside the Prime Minister of Grenada, the current chairman of CARICOM, in the presence of leaders from all CARICOM countries. And the Indian Prime Minister is also scheduled to hold delegation-level talks with President Irfan Ali and address the National Assembly of Guyana. In fact, following Irfan Ali's visit to India in January 2023, Guyana's Vice President Bharat Jagdeo visited India the next month. And in February, Guyana's Prime Minister Mark Phillips also visited India, followed by ministerial and military-level visits. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Georgetown Airport in Guyana. This will be a historic state visit to the oil-rich Caribbean nation of Guyana, and the two countries are expected to sign energy and defense agreements. We may tell you this was the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister after 56 years to Guyana. And moving on, the Group of 20 economies on Tuesday wrapped up their two-day meeting, underscoring the need for collective action to combat climate change, poverty and other global challenges. On day two, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a session on sustainable development and energy transition, emphasizing the need for collective efforts to build a sustainable future. Details in our next report.
And with this, the 19th G20 summit ended on world's major economies working on deepening global cooperation with one aim, a better future. G20 leaders' declaration focused on sustainable development, growth, fighting poverty and harnessing technology.
Declaration focuses on hunger and poverty. It focuses on climate and energy. It focuses on developmental issues. It focuses a lot on, accelerating the pace of sustainable development goals. There's been a huge emphasis on climate and energy also, but it also focuses a lot on a major component of this was geopolitics. The declaration has underlines the immense human suffering and adverse impacts of ongoing conflicts.
With focus on fighting poverty, the G20 summit in Brazil was mostly focused on ways to tackle poverty and hunger. India also joined the Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty. India is one of 147 founding members of the alliance.
Leaders of G20 were invited, countries and heads of international organizations, they were all invited. Then they have participated and launched the Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty. And India has also joined this alliance as one of the 147 founding members. This includes about 81 countries, the African Union and European Union, 24 international organizations, 9 international financial institutions, and 31 philanthropic and non-governmental organizations.
On day two of the summit, leaders participated in a session on sustainable development and energy transition. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the session and welcomed Brazil's decision to take forward India's sustainable development priorities. Prime Minister Modi elaborated on the steps taken by India to foster sustainable development. PM stated that India has provided housing to 40 million families in the last 10 years. He added that 120 million households have been provided with clean drinking water in the last 5 years. PM highlighted that India was the first G20 country to meet its Paris climate goal commitments. Prime Minister spoke about the global initiatives taken by India, such as the International Solar Alliance, Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, Mission Life, One Sun, One World, One Grid, and Global Biofuel Alliance to foster a sustainable planet. Prime Minister urged countries to support the Global Development Compact announced by India at the third Voice of the Global South Summit. On the sidelines of the summit, the declaration on digital public infrastructure, artificial intelligence and data for governance were adopted. These offer a roadmap towards a more sustainable planet. With inputs from Gautam Rai, Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, day two of the Brazil visit was significant in view of India's bilateral ties with Australia, Brazil, Chile and Argentina too. During their respective meetings, leaders took stock of full range of shared relationship. With Australian counterpart Albanese, PM Modi held the second India-Australia annual summit. We get you more details in our report.
On the second day of the G20, on the sidelines of the summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held the second India-Australia annual summit and bilateral meeting with counterpart Anthony Albanese. Both leaders reiterated their commitment to further advance India-Australia comprehensive strategic partnership in myriad areas. Besides, they also welcomed the launch of renewable energy partnership. PM Modi said that in the last 2 years, India-Australia ties grew immensely in several sectors.
पिछले 2 वर्षों में हमारे आपसी व्यापार में 40% वृद्धि हुई है। रक्षा क्षेत्र में जॉइंट एक्सरसाइज, यंग ऑफिसर्स के बीच एक्सचेंज और हमारे प्लेटफॉर्म्स के डिप्लॉयमेंट को बढ़ावा मिला है। हमने ब्रिस्बेन में नया कॉन्सुलेट खोला है और ऑस्ट्रेलिया ने बेंगलुरु में। 2 ऑस्ट्रेलियन यूनिवर्सिटीज ने भारत में अपने कैंपस भी खोले हैं।
While Australian Prime Minister too welcomed the launch of India-Australia Renewable Energy Partnership.
There is so much potential in the relationship between Australia and India. So much more we can do together to build a stronger, safer and more prosperous future for citizens in both of our countries. Today I am delighted to welcome the launch of the India-Australia Renewable Energy Partnership. This is a significant milestone in our cooperation. Our new partnership will boost two-way investment in renewable energy projects like solar PV manufacturing, battery mineral processing, green hydrogen and green iron. Build the future renewable energy workforce, including through skills and training, and ultimately unlock economic opportunities to support the net zero transition.
PM Modi also held a bilateral meeting with Brazilian President Lula da Silva. President Lula told PM Modi that they have incorporated several things in their G20 which were also inspired from India's presidency. He added that Brazil wanted to reach the level of efficiency in organizing the summit that India had shown last year. Leaders also took stock of the full range of bilateral ties between two nations and reaffirmed their commitment to improve cooperation in sectors like energy, biofuels, defense, agriculture, and more.
With the President of Chile, the two sides discussed the potential in areas such as trade and pharmaceutical cooperation. There are discussions on a commercial cooperation agreement that are ongoing between the two sides. Meeting between Prime Minister and the President of Argentina, Javier Milei. The two leaders exchanged their thoughts and their experience in handling issues related to governance. And I should mention that in the lithium space, there's been a significant agreement signed just earlier this year between India and Argentina, whereby an Indian public sector undertaking has entered into an agreement to explore a lithium mine in Argentina. This is possibly the first such initiative by an Indian entity anywhere in the world.
After Brazil, Prime Minister Modi met Chilean President Gabriel Boric Font. India's ties with Chile are getting stronger across various sectors. The talks focused on ways to deepen relations in pharmaceuticals, technology, space, and more. PM Modi said it is gladdening to see Ayurveda gaining popularity in Chile and ties in this sector can gain momentum. Besides, the Prime Minister also had an outstanding meeting with Argentinian President Javier Milei, after which he said that India cherishes the close friendship with Argentina. They talked about enhancing ties in energy, defense production, trade and culture. India-Argentina strategic partnership marks 5 years, adding immense vibrancy to bilateral relations. Earlier on day one of his Rio visit, Prime Minister Modi held bilateral talks with the leaders of US, the UK, France, Norway, Italy, Indonesia and Portugal. Bureau Report, DD India.
And still to come, DD India News. Maharashtra Jharkhand vote in assembly polls today, counting to be done on the 23rd of November. DD India had a conversation with Director General Doordarshan, who gave us insights of the preparedness of iffi.
G20 meeting taking place in Rio on the 18th and 19th of this month. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be participating here as well, along with the leaders of the world's 20 largest economies who will be deliberating on key issues such as eliminating hunger and poverty, sustainable development. For all the latest on the 2024 G20 summit in Rio, join me, Gautam Roy, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. India's Prime Minister visits Guyana on the third leg of his three-nation visit. First visit of an Indian Prime Minister to the Caribbean nation in 56 years to co-chair the second India CARICOM summit. G20 economies wrap up two-day summit in Rio with focus on combating climate change, poverty and other global challenges. South Africa takes over presidency from Brazil. Israel's Netanyahu says Hamas will no longer rule enclave as he visits Gaza, offers a $5 million reward and safe passage for anybody who helps return Israeli captives. US President-elect Donald Trump continues to pick loyalists for his cabinet, names Dr. Mehmet Ozer to oversee Medicare and Medicaid, Cantor Fitzgerald, CEO Howard Lutnick to lead Commerce Department. And 55th edition of the International Film Festival of India begins in Goa today. 270 films from 101 countries to light up the festival for the next 9 days. And moving on, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited Gaza on Tuesday, where he said Hamas would not rule the Palestinian enclave after the conflict had ended. He added that Israel had destroyed the Islamist group's military capabilities. He stressed that Israel had not given up trying to locate the 101 remaining hostages believed to be still in the enclave, for which he offered a $5 million reward and safe passage for anybody who helps return Israeli captives held in the territory.
Hamas will not rule Gaza. We are eliminating its military capabilities in a very impressive way. We are moving on its governmental capabilities, and the hand is outstretched. Hamas will not be in Gaza. I want to say to those who are holding our hostages, whoever dares to harm our hostages, his blood is on his head. We will pursue you, and we will get you.
Well, the comments were made in a video recording by Netanyahu during his visit to Gaza with Israel's defense minister and the head of its army, where he also received a briefing on operational activities. And shifting focus to the US now, where President-elect Donald Trump is forging ahead with his presidential transition, announcing a list of loyalists for top roles in a string of controversial cabinet picks. He's named Linda McMahon as the education secretary. McMahon headed up the Small Business Administration in Trump's first administration and was a major donor and early supporter of the Republican president-elect when he first ran for the White House almost a decade ago. Trump is also named his pick for the post of the administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Celebrity doctor Mehmet Ozer would work closely with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has been nominated to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. Trump said the pair would take on the illness industrial complex and all the horrible chronic diseases left in its wake, as well as cutting what he called waste and fraud. Well, the last but not the least announcement made on Tuesday included the name of Cantor Fitzgerald, CEO Howard Lutnick, who will lead the Commerce Department in Trump's cabinet. With Lutnick, Trump would be tapping a longtime friend who backs the Republicans' vision to bring manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. and promote the adoption of cryptocurrency. Well, there's been a mixture of positive and mutual interest from a few Pacific region leaders at COP29 in response to the recent U.S. presidential election result and its impact to the region. Pacific Island Secretary General highlighted that Pacific remains committed to the agenda of friends to all, enemies to none, and is willing to work with whoever comes into power.
Work together in some areas where we can see eye to eye. And, the United States is always ready to assist the Pacific community anytime. And with our concerns and our priorities regarding climate change, I'm sure that the new administration will find a way of coming on board and assisting us.
Well, in Africa, mobility is closely tied to climate variability. In many regions, unpaved roads become impossible during the rainy season, isolating populations and disrupting economic activities. In Senegal, for instance, more than 10,000 kilometers of roads are unpaved, making the road network particularly vulnerable to the effects of climate change like rising temperatures, increased precipitation and more frequent floods. This situation is all the more concerning as transportation is a rapidly growing sector on the continent, contributing to a rapid increase in greenhouse gas emissions. By building more sustainable roads and improving the management of existing networks in African countries. And some updates from India now. Maharashtra and Jharkhand vote today in the high-stake assembly elections that will decide the fate of the ruling and opposition political alliances in the two states. While polling in Maharashtra is being conducted in a single phase, Jharkhand is voting in the second and final phase today. Voting in both the states began at 7 a.m. and will end at 6 p.m. In Maharashtra, a total of 4,136 candidates are contesting across 288 constituencies. In Jharkhand, over 500 candidates, including Chief Minister Hemant Soren and his wife Kalpana Soren, are contesting in 38 of the total 81 assembly seats. Counting of votes in both the states will take place on Saturday. And moving on, iffi continues to inspire and excite not only the movie fans but also the artist. For Indian actress Aimee Barua, iffi is not just a film event but a celebration of cinema on the global stage. She says that iffi has always been a platform where filmmakers, actors and cinephiles come together to witness the rich diversity and creativity of the film industry.
Your expectations from this particular edition of iffi?
मुझे इस बार सबसे अच्छा लगा जो डेब्यू डायरेक्टर अवार्ड है. मुझे लगता है युवाओं को इस बार बहुत ही प्राधान्य दिया जा रहा है और ये हमारे लिए बहुत बड़ी बात है. पहले ऐसे था कि फिल्म्स आते थे बट हमेशा से लोगों को लगता था कि जो इंटरनेशनल कैटेगरी है वहाँ पे इंटरनेशनल बाहर के लोगों को अवार्ड मिलेंगे, हमारी जो यहाँ की युवाएं हैं उनको कुछ हो सकता है नहीं मिलेंगे. लेकिन इस बार एक अवार्ड ही उनके लिए रखा गया है, तो इस साल ही युवा के लिए है, तो मैं तो बहुत खुश हूँ.
Your message to the young filmmakers?
iffi हमेशा से हर साल और बड़ी होते जा रहे हैं और मैं हर एक को रिक्वेस्ट करती हूँ कि iffi किसी एक पार्ट की फेस्टिवल नहीं है, ये पूरी इंडिया की फेस्टिवल है और हर जगह से लोग आए और इसको सेलिब्रेट करें.
Well, iffi's telecast partner Doordarshan is leaving no stone unturned to make iffi a global event and making the event accessible across the globe. DD India's correspondent Deepika had a conversation with Director General Doordarshan Kanchan Prasad, who gave us the insights on the preparedness of iffi.
Now let's talk about the telecast partner Doordarshan, who have made many efforts to make it a global event and to make it accessible for each and every citizen of the entire world. And to get you more on this, we have with us the DG of Doordarshan, Ms. Kanchan Prasad. Ma'am, thank you so much for talking exclusively to DD India. How are the preparations going on?
Thank you, Deepika. The preparations are immense. And we are very excited that Doordarshan, as always, is the telecast partner. And this time we've made special arrangements, as always. And we have about 21 cameras set up, and with which we will be covering both the red carpet and the grand stage event live. Apart from this time there is a very special element, which is to show the inclusivity. We are planning to telecast on our DD Bharati channel the sign language through which the entire event will be covered. So world over, this is kind of an attempt to get everyone included in this entire journey of films.
Ma'am, I would say this is rather a very noble attempt which is happening for the first time, that an event like iffi is being covered in sign language as well. Apart from that, how are we planning to make it really massive when we talk about its telecast across the world and across the nation specifically?
So as I told you, this is being covered through 21 cameras, out of which a few will be on the red carpet and some will be on at the grand stage inside. There are massive lenses which are there, and our OB vans are deployed. This special broadcast will be telecast live on Doordarshan National, DD News, and of course DD Bharati for all the people who want to see it as an inclusive event.
And also, ma'am, when we talk about what was the idea behind, this inspiring thing when we talk about making it interpreted into a sign language, what was the idea behind it? And how did you come to this decision that we should take it forward in the form of sign language as well?
So, Deepika, for every year, as you are aware, that for our national broadcasts like Republic Day or the Independence Day, we do of course cover it in the sign language, but this time we decided that even for entertainment segment, let me take it forward, because Doordarshan, is a pioneer in many of the fields. So why not in this field? So we decided that this time, let us give it a try and hope we are going to make people proud that we can take this step as well.
What do we have in store when we talk about other small events, apart from screening, apart from the accessibility feature? What else do we have?
Doordarshan is also trying to cover the masterclass and put it out on the social media, so people who could not watch it, or even people who are sitting far away, if they watch our YouTube channels and the YouTube channel of NFDC and iffi, they can actually catch up with the masterclass, where you'll have very, very special guests almost every day.
So there you heard, Doordarshan is really going to make people proud, because Doordarshan is not only showcasing exclusive shows both on DD India, DD News, DD Bharati and across all the verticals of Doordarshan, but it is also sending the message across through sign language. So the program, the event and the message is accessible to everyone. With camera person Alok, this is Deepika reporting from DD India.
And still to come in DD India News Hour. Defending champion India to take on China in the final of Women's Asian Champions Trophy. Tennis legend Rafael Nadal bids farewell to the sport. And amid yellow warnings, Northern England dusted in first snow of the season.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. Lepakshi Khurana, on to some business news now. The Nasdaq and S&P 500 ended higher on Tuesday, led by a jump in technology shares. Meanwhile, Walmart shares climbed after the retailer raised its annual forecast. The S&P 500 gained 23.35 points to 5,916.97, and the Nasdaq Composite added 195.66 points, or to 18,987.47. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq have risen for 2 straight days as the market recovers some of the losses posted last week. While Asian markets opened on a positive note, with investors closely watching earnings reports from the world's most valuable company and assessing heightened geopolitical risks. Seoul and Tokyo stocks edged higher, while Hong Kong futures pointing to slight declines. The Asia Dow is trading up by 0.45%, and Japan's Nikkei 225 is trading in green, up by 0.19%. South Korea's Kospi is higher by 0.20%, and the benchmark Chinese index Shanghai Composite trading up by 0.67%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng is also in the green, up by 0.77%. And the Bitcoin has reached to a record high above $94,000 for the first time. This comes after a report that Donald Trump's social media company was in talks to buy crypto trading firm Bakkt. It has added to hopes of a cryptocurrency-friendly regime under the incoming Trump administration. Bitcoin is the world's biggest and best-known cryptocurrency, has more than doubled this year. Cryptocurrencies have soared since the November 5th U.S. election as traders bet President-elect Trump's promised support for digital assets would lead to a less restrictive regulatory regime and inject some life back into Bitcoin after a listless few months. The growing excitement has taken the global cryptocurrency market's value above $3 trillion to a record high. And you're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. Defending champions India will take on China in the final of the Women's Asia Champions Trophy 2024 at the Rajgir Hockey Stadium in Bihar on Wednesday. India secured its place in the final with a close 2-0 win over Japan in the semi-finals with Navneet Kaur and Laramsiami on the score sheet in the space of 8 minutes. Meanwhile, China made the summit clash in the back of a 3-1 win over Malaysia in the other semi-final. Deng Quenchan, Fan Xiongxia and Tan Jinzhuang were the scorers for China. And tennis great Rafael Nadal's illustrious career came to an end as Spain lost to the Netherlands in the Davis Cup on an emotional night in Malaga. On an emotionally charged evening, the 38-year-old played the opening rubber of the quarter-final tie but lost 6-4, 6-4 despite raucous support from his adoring fans. In the second single match, Carlos Alcaraz beat Talon Grexpoor 7-6, 6-3 to keep Nadal's hopes of another potential farewell appearance alive. However, Alcaraz and Marcel Granollers were beaten by Van de Zandschulp and Wesley Koolhof in the deciding doubles, which means Netherlands will go ahead in the semi-finals. Clay court king Nadal, who last month announced he was ending his glittering career after the Davis Cup Final 8 in Malaga, shed tears as the anthems were played before the tie and was given a standing ovation after the defeat.
Way is good. Maybe if that was my last match, that was my last match. If nothing happens. I lost my first match in the Davis Cup and I lost my last one. So we closed the circle.
Well, the Special Olympics Asia Pacific Bocce and Bowling competition kicked off with a grand opening ceremony at the Tyagaraja Sports Complex in New Delhi. Vice President of India Jagdeep Dhankar inaugurated the event and praised the dedication of the special athletes. The event also saw Union Sports Minister Mansukh Mandavia and President of Special Olympics Bharat Dr. Malika Nadda in attendance.
Ceremony of the Special Olympics Asia Pacific Bocce and Bowling competition was held at the Tyagaraja Sports Complex in New Delhi. Vice President of India Jagdeep Dhankar graced the ceremony as the chief guest and declared the games open. Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar expressed his admiration for the athletes and everyone supporting the event.
By way of these games, we are celebrating something very important, and that is inclusion and dignity. Under the visionary Prime Minister Narendra Modi, several affirmative steps have been taken to provide an ecosystem to them, to unleash their energy and potential, to realize their hopes and aspirations, to realize their dreams. And I've seen this myself while greeting the parading athletes.
The opening ceremony witnessed a grand display of cultural performances and a special march past by the participating countries. Union Sports Minister Mansukh Mandavia, along with the President of Special Olympics Bharat Dr. Malika Nadda, also attended the event. On this occasion, Mansukh Mandavia said that the government is fully committed to supporting the Special Olympics movement.
Today, I am pleased to announce that the government, under the dynamic leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, is fully committed to supporting Special Olympics Bharat and ensuring that our nation provides an inclusive sports environment for athletes of all abilities.
It is a moment of celebration, unity and inspiration with athletes from 12 countries who are representing not only their teams, but also the spirit of inclusion, the spirit of courage, and the resilience that Special Olympics embodies. Our presence today reinforces our commitment to building an inclusive world, one where every individual, regardless of their disabilities, is celebrated and empowered.
The Special Olympics Asia Pacific Bocce and Bowling Competition is the first of its kind in India, empowering athletes with intellectual and developmental disabilities aged 22 and above. The tournament has introduced bowling as a competitive sport in India for the first time. The 4-day competition will see special athletes from 12 countries vying for top honours in both sports. Sports Desk, DD India.
Well, a light dusting of snow covers Pavilion Garden Park in Buxton, Northern England. The Met Office has issued yellow warnings for snow and ice across large parts of Northern England as the country experiences its first snow of the season. Take a look. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. Well, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.